Hey, Jesse, when she gave it back just now, she made Debbie the host. Does that impact anything?
It might just slightly. Debbie, do you mind quickly going next to Jackie's name and make him the host?
Click on mouse over my name and click on the
Thanks,
ellipses.
Mel. We appreciate you.
Sorry, I didn't know who was the host.
You are
Oh,
all
that's fine.
good.
He's
We
the host. Thanks,
appreciate
Mel.
you.
Okay. Have a good session.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. And Jackie, go ahead and make Debbie a co-host again.
I will do that
She,
now.
she lost that when she gave you host. All right. Now we're golden. Everything's good to go.
We are. Oh, you're muted, Debbie. You're muted.
Thank you. Now I'm now I'm unmuted and my video is gone. I will, when you get started, I'm going to unmute myself because I know I'll forget.
Perfection. All right, so now we're live on YouTube and everything's set to go, Jackie. So top of the hour, you're just ready to start when you're ready to start to hit record and go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ed Talks. I'm just dropping in here to let you know you are in the right place and at the right time. We're going to be starting at the top of the hour. Thanks for those who've come in early. Feel free to use the chat to maybe uh, do a shout out of where it is in the world you're visiting from. And remember to set your chat to everyone. Again, we'll start at the top of the hour. Thank you for being here. Seeing some folks are from Washington. Hey, Mo, Lake Havasu are you visiting there? I visited there once. To this day, it's the hottest place I've ever been.
Jackie, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
I don't see a place to turn on my video anymore. Just,
Well, let me go look and see what we have going on with you again. So now I'm showing you as a co-host, and I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to put it back up there again, see what happens.
okay.
So I've done that. It says make a co-host. Here it comes, coming at you. Bam. Did it help at all?
I don't see my ribbon at the top, but let me try this. I hit. No,
Debbie, are you seeing any of your Zoom controls?
I don't see any Zoom controls.
Okay, do Alt Tab and to navigate back over to Zoom.
I think
Aha.
Jesse has an associate degree in Zoom.
Jesse, you're a genius. Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, Jesse. I was going to suggest just shake your laptop as if it was an Etch-a-Sketch model because that's all I had in the way of resolving it.
It's helped in the past. Mm.
Hi, everybody. I'm showing a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, and at the top of the hour, we are going to get started. So with that, if you haven't logged into the chat section, be sure and set it to everyone so that you're not just talking to the panelists. And just as a quick test, let us know where in the world you're dialing in from. Again, we're going to start at the top of the hour. See you up there. Bye now. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I have started the recording again. Before we begin, as indicated in the registration, just so you know, for this gathering, by attending the Zoom webinar, you do acknowledge that this session will be recorded and may be used for future UAGC presentations. Exciting stuff, isn't it? It also gives you the opportunity to bow out if you don't want to be a part of the live session that's being recorded, but that's fine. You can always pop back in and watch the recording, but we hope you do stick around because it's going to make for some interesting conversation when we get to the end. Welcome. We know you have many choices, and the University of Arizona Global Campus does a wonderful job of providing you options. So thank you for choosing us, Ed Talks, here in the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. I'm Jackie Kiger. I'm going to be your host for today. Today we launched the second presentation within our 10th annual Ed Talks, the series Flourishing in Open Access Education, which examines supporting students and colleagues in open access environments through the lens of positive psychology. Each story takes the work of Martin Seligman's book, Flourish, a visionary new understanding of happiness and well-being, and considers the relationship between well-being and the contemporary culture of care in open access higher education. Dr. Deborah Carpenter is here to explore and extend our journey of flourishing with her story of how we might create a bliss blueprint. As you listen to Debbie's story, you might listen for your call to action to share your practices that promote student success in your classroom and also with your colleagues through blissful interactions. Debbie, can you come on camera and say hello as I introduce you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you.
Dr. Deborah Carpenter is a full-time assistant professor and chair of the Faculty Support and Development Committee, where she serves as an instructional quality reviewer and mentor for associate faculty within the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. Debbie began her career in the field of elementary education, having taught 3rd and 4th grades in Southern California. She obtained her Master of Arts degree from San Diego State University in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in reading and language arts, and her PhD in education this past July from the University of Arizona Global Campus. Debbie facilitates courses within the Department of Education Studies and more recently in the PhD education program, where she enjoys guiding PhD students and sharing practical, real-world insights she has learned through her own doctoral journey. Debbie's a veteran Ed Talker, and today she will deliver her 4th Ed Talk, her 4th story. Fun fact about Debbie? Well, she made the shift to higher education working at the same university and in the same campus location as last month's Ed Talk speaker, Dr. Ellen Beatty. She too has an interesting interview memory with, you guessed it, that same manager with pointed questions. In the interview, the manager questioned Debbie's desire to apply for a position as an enrollment advisor, and he asked how she could possibly be good at sales with only teaching experience and no sales experience. Well, Debbie responded that success in sales depends on the ability to share relevant expertise, develop authentic relationships, and address the individual needs of her prospective students. Abilities she knew she had. Debbie was hired on the spot, became a top advisor for 2 years, and was eventually recruited to the academic side, where she has happily supported students and faculty ever since. She remains grateful for that first opportunity to enter higher education. Debbie, welcome. I'm going to ask that we now remove our video so that we can get started after a few brief reminders. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As a reminder, Ed Talks are fashioned after TED Talks, the ever-popular way of sharing personal stories for only 18 minutes of monologue. We do this because we want to hear your story, and we can best do that by sharing our stories. Our goal is not necessarily to teach you something new, as you already are an expert in your field. Our goal is to perhaps motivate you to try something new in your approach to helping your students succeed, to encourage your students in some new way. At the end of our Ed Talk today, we look forward to hearing your story of what you are doing or will do in your educational setting. So after Debbie's story, we will invite you all the participants to share your reflection and practices. So with that said, audience members, if you could, please hold your comments and the chat to the end. Debbie, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Jackie. Hi, guys. I begin my Ed Talk with gratitude. I am grateful to be an Ed Talker, continuing the conversation around the topic of positive psychology. I am grateful to Jackie for his weekly coaching invites that kept me from procrastinating. I am grateful to be flourishing at UAGC, where my colleagues inspire me to reflect, learn, and grow. Last month, we learned that it is never too late to flourish, to tap into your strengths, and to use them to build strengths in others. You were invited to assess your strengths to see how these might empower you. Dr. Beatty described well-being as driven by PERMA. Now, as awesome as PERMA sounds, how do we make it stick? Is it just a cool acronym that fades over time? How do we ingrain habits to make PERMA permanent? And this led me to wonder, how do people become happy? Is happiness a state of mind, or is it a choice we make? A choice guided by a well-laid plan or a blueprint. This is the topic of my Ed Talk, creating a bliss blueprint. 3 questions I pose to you. How do you incorporate gratitude into your life? Which strength will you exercise in a new way? How will you create bliss in the blissfully ordinary? Bliss. What brings you bliss? If I asked you to close your eyes and conjure up a blissful image, what would you see? Would it be a romantic Santorini sunset? Palapas in paradise? What about wine country with the ones you love most? Each of us has our own mental slideshow of blissful images, but I wonder, can bliss be created in ourselves, not influenced by bucket list vacations or extraordinary events, but created within the routine of daily life? Okay, I know it's already February, but let me just say, happy belated New Year. A new year, a shiny new year filled with promise. New year, new you. Did you make resolutions? The media wants us to make resolutions. The gym offers half-off memberships. The Today Show compares popular diet plans. Recognize this jingle? Oh, 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 Ozempic! Scrolling through social media, I am bombarded with advice about foods to eat, drinks to avoid, exercises to do. Ask friends about their resolutions and you'll often hear, I want to tone up. I want to drink more water. I want to cut back on sweets. I want to fit into my old jeans. It's not so common to hear, I want to be happier. I want to be satisfied with life. I want to be grateful for what I have. I want to feel blissful. Society places emphasis on the care and well-being of our physical selves. Let's say you want to build more muscle. You typically follow a plan. My husband Preston does. His daily gym workout looks like this. Day 1, back and biceps. Day 2, chest and triceps. Day 3, legs and shoulders. Preston types up his plan, he follows the plan, and he checks off his progress on the plan, week after week. His plan, or his blueprint, promotes his success in building muscle. What would happen to Preston if he stopped following the plan? You've heard of use it or lose it, right? If you don't use your muscles, they atrophy. And the next time you lift weights, it's hard. Same goes for following a healthy diet. Last fall, I used a program to improve my nutrition and, yes, to lose some weight. It was a strict program with, you guessed it, a strict plan. Each day I used a tracker to record my meals, snacks, and drinks. In 3 months' time, I lost over 25 pounds. The detailed plan followed consistently led to my weight loss. Well-constructed plans for building muscle or losing weight, they serve as blueprints for creating physical wellness. So, what about happiness? What about bliss? What if we regarded our capacity for bliss as a muscle needing to be flexed? If we use the same discipline, if we created a plan or a blueprint for bliss, could we have the same positive results with our mental health that we do with our physical health? Seligman noted that just as exercise promotes physical wellness, mental wellness can be strengthened through exercise. Just as with physical exercise, however, mental exercise must be implemented and repeated for long-term success. When examining positive psychology, Seligman described 3 exercises that could significantly reduce depression and leave people feeling happier. No drugs, no electrotherapy, a blueprint for bliss. What would this look like? I'd like to introduce you to a special group of friends I am lucky to know. I call them the Village, not to be confused with these guys. No, not the Village people, just the Village. You know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child? This group of women has supported me through getting my girls through high school, watching them graduate, navigating college admissions and rejections, adjusting to an empty nest, facing health challenges, and supporting aging parents. Whatever is happening in my life, good or bad, the Village has my back. We meet once a month for birthday brunch. In January of last year, we celebrated my birthday, and my friend Jody gave me a gift that changed my life. It was this: the 1-minute gratitude journal. Small, unassuming paperback, cute cover. The 1-minute gratitude journal is filled with inspiring quotes. It proposes that each day you write 3 things you are grateful for that happened to you within the past 24 hours. Now, why 24 hours? To prevent you from falling back on expected topics, my family, my health, my life, and instead to be detailed and intentional. So the next morning, I sat down and began journaling my gratitude on the couch with my morning coffee. It has been over a year now, and I haven't missed a day of journaling since. I got to the end of my journal and had to order a new one on Amazon. Yes, I had to. You see, over the past year, recording my gratitude had moved from, oh, this will be something fun and new to try, to an essential part of my mental health practice. It had become as important to me as breathing or savoring my first cup of coffee. My daily reflection and journaling not only enhanced my mindset, but helped me finish my dissertation last year. My colleagues, you empathize with the gut-wrenching challenge of receiving difficult feedback, reaching an insurmountable writing barrier, feeling unworthy of the scholarly expectations placed upon you. My newfound gratitude practice encouraged me to see the good, the valuable, the blessings in my life that fueled my progress, even in challenging times. I was grateful for each step in the doctoral journey, no matter how tough. Through a practice of gratitude, I encouraged my bliss, and I prevailed. Seligman took gratitude to a higher level when he asked clients to make a gratitude visit. A gratitude visit begins with a letter you sit down and write, a 300-word letter to someone who changed your life for the better. It must be specific, and here's the kicker. It must be delivered and read to the individual in person so that they know how often you remember what they did. Sellerman reported that clients felt less depressed 1 month after completing their gratitude visits. When I finished my dissertation, I shared my acknowledgement section with every mentor I had mentioned so that they understood the role they played in helping me become a doctor. With new knowledge of positive psychology and the gratitude visit, I will kick things up a notch this June. I will set my sights on Phoenix, Arizona, where I will be hooded as a doctor and share my gratitude letter with my dissertation chair, Dr. Jody Hamerda. Yes, another Jody. Jody's guidance changed my life, and I can't wait to meet her. I can't wait to see her expression when she hears my letter. I can't wait to know how I will feel when I read it. I can guess that I will feel bliss. When you consider your gratitude visit, where would you go? Who would you see? What would you say? As an instructor, I already encourage my students to engage in positive visualization. I ask them to envision themselves walking across the stage, accepting their diplomas, completing their degrees. Now, I incorporate gratitude as an ongoing exercise. My modeling of a gratitude thread is an invitation to engage in a new weekly practice that promotes bliss in my students. Sellerman prefers in-person communication, so I also harness the power of video, my next best alternative, to look into the camera lens, into my students' eyes, and share gratitude for my life and for them. I create my bliss and provide an outlet for students to do the same. Now, why do exercise and diet programs have great short-term results, but not long-term results? In positive psychology, we find that while optimism accompanies positive resolutions, many aspects of human behavior do not cause permanent change. 80 to 95% of dieters regain all the weight within 3 years. Jeez, doesn't bode well for me, does it? Psychotherapy and drugs, the topic of our next Ed Talk, are also known to relieve symptoms in the short term. Sellerman shared that people spend more time engaged in pessimism versus optimism. So he developed a second exercise called 3 Blessings, otherwise known as What Went Well, to promote well-being with long-lasting results. One night, I decided to try. After dinner, I took out a sheet of paper and drew a vertical line down the center. At the top of the left-hand column, I wrote, what went well? At the top of the right-hand column, I wrote, why it went well. I recorded my 3 whats and my 3 whys for 1 week. Know what happened? I felt blissfully accomplished in my life. Connecting my why to my what did 2 things. It deepened my reflection and it reminded me of the power of my actions on the positive events in my life. If my experience intrigues you, check this out. In 2005, Time magazine ran a story about positive psychology, and in response, Sellerman's website offered a free What Went Well exercise. The website received thousands of registrants, among them 50 of the most severely depressed people. These 50 people did the exercise for 1 week and reported back. The results were astounding. On average, their depression scores plummeted from extreme to the low end of mild moderate. Their happiness scores jumped from the 15th to the 50th percentile. 47 of the 50 most depressed people reported feeling less depressed and happier. In 40 years of prescribing psychotherapy and drugs, Sellerman never achieved results this good. When I make time to record what went well and why it went well, I feel happier, in control of my own success. So I have added both gratitude and blessings to my blueprint. Now, here's a news flash. Solomon found that when participants continued their What Went Well exercise beyond the prescribed 1-week period, changes in happiness lasted longer. As my 18-year-old daughter would say, duh. Use it or lose it. Continue engaging in the exercise for greatest results. A blueprint is only as successful as the discipline I use to follow it. This is true whether I pursue physical fitness or my own emotional bliss. Each requires intention, choice, and discipline. We've now considered gratitude and blessings, but how do our strengths support our bliss? Last month, we were encouraged to take an assessment to determine our top character strengths or signature strengths. I would include these strengths on my blueprint. My top 5 are love, gratitude, hope, perspective, zest. A final exercise asks me to focus on my strengths. You may be thinking, Debbie, would it not be more growth-minded, focusing on your weaknesses, your bottom 5? Why dwell on what you're already good at? The idea is to first own and cherish my authentic self, to celebrate what makes me awesome. Then I must find new, more frequent uses for my strengths. Best part? When I tap into my strengths, I feel invigorated, not exhausted. I can plan new pursuits that promote my bliss. Here are some 2024 pursuits that will support my strengths. Love. I will mail a handwritten Valentine to my younger brother. My brother is someone I love, but not someone I reach out to often. I want him to know how much he means to me because he doesn't hear it enough. Gratitude. I will share my in-person gratitude with my chair, Jody, this June. Hope. I will use what went well, why it went well in class to build hope in my students so that they see how action influences success. Perspective. I will guide PhD students in 3 new ways: by kicking off the PhD support series, teaching my first in-res workshop this weekend, and sharing insights on the Happy Dog Student podcast this spring. Zest. I will complete the North Olympic Discovery Half Marathon in a new part of the U.S. If you're a fan of the Twilight books, I'm going to go find Edward Cullen in Port Angeles, Washington. When I view these pursuits, I feel blissful because these plans call upon strengths I already have. What will your pursuits be? Now, we all know the advice we hear when we fly on an airplane. Place your own oxygen mask over your head before tending to others. Bliss works the same way. I cannot encourage bliss in my students unless I am intentional about creating it in myself. Creating bliss in my daily life begins with a choice, a plan, a blueprint. I find opportunities to journal my gratitude. I tell people how they have changed my life for the better. I examine what goes well in my life and why. I stop fixating on my frustrations and I focus on the good. I reflect on my top strengths that make me, me. I will use them in new ways and I'll use them often. The longer I incorporate these practices, the better they will stick. Of course, I'll find bliss in the bucket list moments of my life. The key to creating bliss, however, is in the habits that empower me to create bliss in the blissfully ordinary. Bliss is not found in New Year's-y short-term resolutions, but in intentional exercises and discipline that promote long-term well-being. Exercises that strengthen the muscles that build and sustain my capacity for bliss. This is how I make the permanent. With my blueprint, I become a beacon of bliss for my students. It begins with me. So I ask you, what will your blueprint look like? What exercises will you incorporate into your life? What will you try in your classroom to promote bliss for you and for your students? Thank you. I'm grateful that you listened. Jackie, back to you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. But really, thank you for being you. Audience members, I selfishly and pridefully, I've worked with Debbie now for more than a decade. And what you've seen here today is representative of who she is in our daily work lives. It is interesting. Well, no, you know, it's exciting to learn her approach, her process to self-care. Imagine what it must be like to be a student in her class and how she might encourage and support students in her teaching capacity. I'd never considered bliss in my approach to teaching. I'm not sure how that might look for me, but I think I know where I can start. Now, Debbie's story has left me thinking, am I taking care of my students by taking care of myself? Do I find time to be in my teaching? Or am I setting aside time dedicated for my teaching? The magic for me in Debbie's story is that she's intentional on being happy. A blueprint for bliss. A blueprint for being happy. They say that happiness begets happiness. So it would make sense that a root cause for happy students is that they are being led by an intentionally happy instructor. She's happy to be there. I don't journal, but I'm thinking that I too should give it a try. Honestly, for me, it suggests a vulnerability that's a little uncomfortable. But what would our teaching look like if we only did things that were comfortable? Through Salomon's work in positive psychology, we have the challenge to start with our strengths assessment findings, our top 5. My highest category was honesty. So I think it might be time to be honest with myself regarding self-care, bliss, stopping and smelling the roses. I may have a growth opportunity here. It's from this healthy place of self that we might rub off on our students, that we might be that beacon of bliss, that they too may live full and happy, healthy, blissful lives for having had you as their instructor. So as we consider the strengths assessments, and I hope everyone will, we're going to put a link in the chat to remind you, if you haven't done so, to please consider doing so. So for those of you here, we want to hear from you as we open up these chat lines to consider your takeaways from today's story. Let's frame our discussion around these questions you see here as we reflect on our own teaching practices, looking through that lens of creating a bliss-filled blueprint. We'd also love to hear from you. So to share with us using your audio, simply raise your hand using the hand icon on the bottom of your screen. I think it's on the bottom of your screen. You will then be given the opportunity to unmute your microphone and share your story or reflection that way. We invite you to join the conversation now to inspire others with your story.
Well, I appreciate all the comments in the chat. And Holly, I would say, without sounding like a salesperson, I hope that you take that away, that it was, you know, at least my second journal, best $5.99 I could have ever spent. And I can't say enough of how that intention and that writing down of good things sets your mind for everything that you have ahead. There have been plenty of times where I've come down anticipating the stressors of the day, and something happens when I take the time to think about what has been good in my life. So I loved that. I loved that question.
I see you're not alone here. Haley also uses a daily gratitude journal. That's going to be a big jump for me, but I think I'm going to give it a try and just see where it goes, Debbie, because I certainly appreciate how you were sharing with us what a huge difference that type of pause takes. And to that point, the importance of saying, don't say the things that immediately come to mind. Let's talk about maybe the things that have in the last 24 hours that you can find gratitude in.
Absolutely. It can be too easy just to kind of lean on those, because it's not to say they're not important. Of course, those three generals are important, but it really does just encourage you to dig a little deeper and to really find opportunities to be grateful, perhaps even in opportunities that don't immediately bring gratitude to mind. So, oftentimes we encourage our students to find the learning opportunity. What is this opportunity supposed to be teaching me? What am I supposed to take away from this? And that gratitude in practice really works very similarly. Teresa, I would absolutely agree, and I wanted to make that connection between journaling gratitude and thinking about the good things within the context of a very challenging time, one that so many of you have been through. And I don't know, does it ever become a thing like childbirth, where enough time goes by and you kind of forget about it? I would think probably not. And Haley, I do love the fact that you mentioned there's so many different kinds of journals. There doesn't need to be any structure to it. It can simply be, a blank piece of paper. You might prefer doodles and visuals. Everyone will find what's right for them, for sure.
Appreciate Jennifer Robinson, who put in the text here about being able to use this both at the undergrad and grad level. And I think as instructors, we all do that deep dive into that course about the CLOs and what is it we're going to be covering and how can I use those life experiences in covering that. But what I absolutely love about this whole positive psychology and the flourish is I feel like it puts science behind when we speak about a culture of care. And in this example here, the things that Dr. Carpenter has pulled from chapter 2 of this book, if you don't have the book, and I'll mention it again, I think it's a great thing to add to your professional library as a reference.
And I think too, when we think about what our learning preferences are, what our communication preferences are, you may find and be reinforced the way I felt reinforced by taking the short assessment and finding my top 5, finding my signature strengths. This is a time to celebrate who you are, not try to be someone new, not trying to be something that you're not, but that when you identify your strengths and also along with that, your learning preferences, you might find that expressing gratitude is done in a quiet meditation. It may be done in reflecting out loud when you're in the car. It might look like singing in the shower. I mean, there are so many ways that you can really just set your mind on what's going well. And I get it. It's when I was an elementary school teacher, some days I had to dig deep to find the positive that was going on in a squirrely class. But when your intent is there and your mindset is there, you will find it. And you will find that over the course of your day, you will feel so much better. If you're feeling better, guaranteed your students are going to feel better too.
And as a quick side, I saw where an attendee had their hand up, and by the time I went over to scroll and find out who it was gone again. So if that was intentional, well, you could put your hand up again and I could try and find you again, because with this new upgrades with Zoom, yes, I'm blaming it on Zoom. I just wasn't able to find you. So with that, if that was the case, because I know oftentimes the Zoom feature will raise its hand for me when I get excited with my hands in the discussion. And I'm like, no, I didn't raise my hand. So if that was the case, I apologize for going on about this, but I don't want to miss an opportunity if somebody wanted the microphone.
Jackie, you and I always talk about being sick of our own voices. So if someone wants to come on and share with their voice, I mean, we always welcome that. Michael, the chart is really powerful. And, you know, I think oftentimes our students maybe think that when things go well in the course of the week, and that's easy to do when you do a very surfacey reflection, what went well. The why part is really what helps them make the connection between, wait, there were some choices I made that helped to make that event go well. And it's very empowering. And again, as with anything, it's got to be something that you encourage in more of a habitual way so that it almost becomes automatic. What went well, but why? Asking why, going deeper. Hi,
Haley,
Haley.
I can't find you on the list. So can you just unmute yourself with the superpowers that you may have?
I think can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. And thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you for saving us.
No problem. Well, I don't know that I'm saving you. I want to be like, hi, long time listener, first time caller. I wasn't able to attend the first half of Ed Talks today, but I'm wondering if there was any commentary, or maybe we can have this discussion together about group reflection, and sharing the practice of gratitude with others. Like, what would that look like in a classroom? I realize that sometimes the things people are grateful for, or maybe things are going on in your life that you are not grateful for, and so it's hard to find the gratitude. And what I'm saying is sometimes these things are private, what we are grateful for, and I recognize that. But I just am interested in the dynamic of sort of a group gratitude approach. And I didn't know if you had discussed that in the first 30 minutes that I missed.
Yeah, Haley, I'm glad you mentioned that because I do encourage gratitude sharing within the course of my class. I've recently done it as an announcement that I open up where I encourage students to share what they're grateful for. I do invite that gratitude to come in the way of academic gratitude, professional gratitude, personal gratitude. All ideas are welcome. All sharing is welcome. And yes, sharing is optional. But I think that it's part of that maintaining of balance. One of the things that I talk about when I work with doctoral students is that you have to be strong to get to the end of a doctoral program. But there's not just one type of strength. Strength doesn't just mean academic strength. Strength means strength in your body, strength in your mind, and strength in your heart. And that strength in your heart is promoted by things that bring you joy, things that make you happy. And those might not be things that are happening in the classroom, but by reflecting upon and acknowledging those, you then build your strength to continue on when things are tough. So that's one of the things that we can do to, to encourage that group gratitude, whether it's in a discussion thread, an interactive announcement, whether it be, hosting some sessions where you're just sharing a little gratitude get together and I want to hear what you're grateful for. Let's take some time. And Julie, you had asked, what's the response? Just as with anything, you have it vary depending on your specific group of students. But I've always known that if you do something more frequently, if you make it a habit, if you make it kind of a thing that happens in your class, students are going to catch on to it. So I think it might be a little new now, but I think with habit, I look forward to having more than a handful of students engage.
The thing too, Haley, I like it that you mentioned the group thing, because it's not like we're going to provide you with, well, if you want to show gratitude, do this. What we hope happens, and as we begin with all of our Ed Talks, is it kind of inspires you to maybe kick around doing something that you just think of. And with that thought, what a great follow-up to any discussion thread to kind of gear that conversation that, and we know the discussions are geared, towards the learning, towards the CLOs and things of that nature. But as a faculty member, I see it all the time in courses that I've reviewed and in the courses I teach of just kind of going off a little bit at the end of the week to say, well, what's everybody doing this weekend? Or, hey, what are you thankful for? That has a lot of value, I think, in the mindfulness of saying, I'm going to approach things like that from a little more of a grateful point of view. And I know for me, as I sit here and listen to Debbie, I do sandwich my comments when I do grading, but now I kind of want to go back and look at the sandwich, and maybe it should just be more like a piece of avocado toast and just be open-faced. And I'm just gonna jump in with what went well, and treat it like that. And just can I say grading with gratefulness as I approach what I see, the work that students are doing? I think there's value in me approaching it that way. I wonder what kind of feedback I would come up if I went into it with that lens, that set of goggles. So that's something certainly for me to consider.
I feel like you've coined a term, Jackie, grading with gratitude. I wonder the impact that we would make if we came at every interaction with our students from a place of gratitude. And as I was preparing today, I was thinking about Dr. Miller's panel discussion yesterday for Black History Month, and that one of the panelists talked about one of the most important ways you build authentic relationships is by expressing to students that you believe in them and that they need to hear that you believe in them so that they are likely to believe in themselves. And I kind of feel like that belief goes with gratitude. If we let our students know we are grateful for them, we would not be here without them. And with that, we're grateful for what they're bringing to the experience, what they're sharing, what they have learned, what their strengths are, and just building that way that we do that, and we create a much more welcoming environment where our students are more apt to feel blissful, more apt to stay.
And with that, we appreciate all of you, and we're grateful for all of you, and we value your time. So the time is winding down. And as you know, all good things must come to an end. Next slide, please. The certificate. Please reference the chat box or the QR code. I've already posted it in the chat on your screen for a link to the Ed Talks homepage, where this recorded Ed Talk will be archived for future viewing, along with certificates of participation, as well as the links to the strengths survey that Dr. Carpenter referenced in her story today. You'll also find the link to the Ed Talk homepage was in the invitation that you received to come here. Next slide, please. We again want to acknowledge the work of Martin Solomon for inspiring this series. Consider finding yourself a copy of the book Flourish, A Visionary New Understanding of Happiness and Well-Being. Please mark your calendars for the second Thursday of most months. I think we take a break in the summer, from now until October. Same time, same place, and let's continue our series. Let's continue to flourish as we consider the positive psychology in our approach to teaching. Next slide, please. Please come back and see us for our next session on March the 14th, as Dr. Kara Metz, a licensed counselor, shares on the topic of unveiling drugs and therapy. We thank you for joining us today, and a huge thank you again to Dr. Deborah Carpenter for sharing with us today to inspire our next steps in supporting our students and each other. Next slide, please. On behalf of our Associate Dean, Dr. Denise Maxwell, and the UAGC's College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Education and Liberal Arts, we wish you a safe, a healthy, a bliss February, and we'll see you all next month.